Good morning, Europe. It's Tuesday, the 29th of May. Our headlines for you. Collision course. Will a political crisis in Italy turn into a showdown over the future of Italy in Europe? Plus, over in the Cube, our social media news desk.
Taking sides like at a football match. That's how the division in Italy has been described. We'll have voices from all sides here in the Cube.
Hero hypocrisy. France celebrates the migrant who's rescued a child while debating tough new immigration laws. Counter-attack. EU politicians talk retaliation days before punishing U.S. tariffs are due to take effect. Thank you for starting your day with us. Just days ago, Italy's populists were hoping to form an anti-austerity government. Now they're facing what looks like their worst nightmare, a new prime minister known as Mr. Scissors for his cuts to public spending. Meanwhile, voters are bracing for a showdown over Italy's membership in the euro. Our journalist Evelyn Laverick has the latest.
Italy's political turmoil takes another twist today as former IMF economist Carlo Cottarelli becomes the latest to attempt to form a government. His appointment as interim prime minister comes after previous efforts by Italy's two populist parties collapsed. That happened after Italy's president vetoed their choice of a Eurosceptic as finance minister. Anti-establishment Five-Star Movement leader Luigi Di Maio described the president's intervention as the darkest hour in Italy's democracy.
This is a technical government which hasn't ever been voted for, and Cottarelli is sure never to have a parliamentary majority. So we will have a government not only not voted for by the people, but not even by the parliament.
Five Star and its prospective coalition partner, the League, recently presented political novice Giuseppe Conte as their compromise candidate for Prime Minister. But with the markets spooked by the prospect of an anti-austerity government and its strong Eurosceptic messages, the president stepped in. League chief Matteo Salvini joined Di Maio in slamming the president, accusing him of keeping the country enslaved to financial investors. Cottarelli's appointment to form a stopgap administration sets the stage for fresh elections in the autumn or early next year. And Five Star and the League are said to be already pondering tactics. Evelyn Laverick, Euronews.
NBC correspondent Claudia Lavanya joins us live now from Rome. Claudia, it is clear that Cottarelli has his work cut out for him. What are his chances of success here?
Well, not many, Tessa. Good morning to you. Well, essentially yesterday, when right after he was appointed at the presidential palace behind me, Cottarelli said he wanted to do one thing with his caretaker government, which was to draft and approve the state budget for 2019 and then call for elections as early as next spring. But for that to happen, he needs to win a vote of confidence in both the lower house of parliament and the Senate. And to do that, he needs the support of Luigi Di Maio and Matteo Salvini, who, of course, said that they're not going to do. So what's probably going to happen is that Cottarelli and his caretaker government will just take care of the day-to-day ordinary administration until new elections are called, possibly as early as September, Tessa.
Yeah, and there are fears that the election will turn into a referendum on the euro, in fact. So what are Italians actually voting on?
Well, it's unlikely that they're going to pretend that this election is going to be a referendum on the euro, because now both Luigi Di Maio and Matteo Salvini are saying that they never said they wanted to get out of the euro, despite plenty of evidence that in the past they did call for Italy to get out of the euro, or at least they called for a referendum to let Italians decide whether Italy should get out of the euro. What's most likely to happen is that it's going to be a referendum between those who agree with Di Maio and Salvini when they say that the president, with his decision, was attacking democracy, that he was bowing to pressure from the European Union and the markets, and those who defend the president, saying that he was right in not in vetoing an economy minister who was a clear skeptic against the euro, on the euro or the European Union. And that referendum, in a way, started already online yesterday, with two hashtags being the most popular. One was hashtag Io sto con il presidente, I support the president, and the other one was Mattarella dimettiti, Mattarella resign. There was even an online petition in support of the president that attracted as many as 200,000 signatures in less than 24 hours, Tessa.
All right, thank you for that, Claudia Lavanya, live in Rome. Now, this issue really has bitterly divided Italians on social media, and Alex has been tracking all voices on this story. Alex.
Absolutely, Tessa. Here at Euronews, we have an Italian team, and they summed it up for us by saying, It's like a football match. Italy's divided, Italians are divided, and people are picking sides. We heard there from Claudia about the deep divisions. And here in the Cube, what we do is we keep across all forms of social media, the team listening for all those voices. And there are a number of hashtags, both pro and anti-Mattarella. I want to just bring up this image here, if we can push in on this. This is Mattarella depicted as Superman. Here there is the hashtag Save Italy, and also here, I stand with Mattarella. For some people, the president has stepped in and saved Italy from a potential crisis. On the other hand, 5-star and their supporters are sharing another hashtag, which is My Vote Counts. This here from Giorgio, who is a spokesman for 5-star, shows him holding the Italian flag aloft. And in this tweet, he says, now more than ever, Italians need to make their voices heard. So there's a sense the president, for some, is a hero. For others, he is ignoring the will of the Italian people. Beyond Italy, we're seeing the president depicted here in the New York Times, described here in the New York Times, as having once been seen as grey and invisible, but now they describe him as the most contentious figure in European politics. And Germany's DW described the constitutional crisis, this clash between factions, as the worst Italy has seen since the formation of the Republic in 1946. Hugely contentious, divided, we're hearing like a football match. What are your views? Let us know. We want to hear all voices in the Cube using hashtag #TheCube.
All right, thanks for keeping an eye on that, Alex. Now, the Spanish Prime Minister faces a vote of no confidence on Thursday following a corruption ruling against members of his party. The Socialist Party are hoping to replace him with their secretary, Pedro Sanchez, who has pledged fresh elections. But even with the support of the leftist bloc in Congress, it is unclear if the 176 votes required to unseat Rajoy will be reached. Now, what started as an extraordinary act of bravery is sparking a fresh row about immigration in France. This video of Mamadou Gassama scaling a Paris building to rescue a child has gone viral. The undocumented Malian immigrant has been celebrated on social media, and today he will be rewarded with a French residence permit. But all the attention comes as French politicians debate a contentious immigration bill. And for more on this, I'm joined by our correspondent, Annelise Borges, who was at the scene of the rescue in Paris. Annelise, he's still the talk of the town today. What has been the reaction so far?
Absolutely. This extraordinary act has added to a profound debate happening here in this country over immigration and asylum. Only last month, a new bill has been approved in the lower house of Congress, a new bill surrounding asylum rules, actually tightening asylum rules. It actually shortens the asylum process period, but it doubles the time migrants can be detained for. And it adds a 1-year prison sentence for those caught entering France illegally. And human rights organizations have been criticizing the government, saying that these new laws have gone and are going to go too far, and actually pointing out to the fact that if Mamadou Gassama, if those laws were already in place, Mamadou Gassama would have probably spent his Saturday night in jail, as opposed to scaling the building you see behind me to rescue that child who was hanging from the 4th floor. An extraordinary act of bravery that has actually transformed the young Malian migrant into France's new hero.
I just didn't have time to think. I ran across the road to go and save him, and then I saved him.
With simple words, a visibly nervous Mamadou Gassama described to the French president the heroic act that forever changed his life. Not even in his wildest dreams did the young Malian national who crossed Niger, Burkina Faso and Libya to reach Europe ever imagine he would be received at the French presidential palace. But it is France that wants to thank Gassama. The undocumented migrant will be given French papers and a job with the country's firefighter brigade. All that thanks to a remarkable feat.
When I look up there and I get the chills, he simply decided to go up. He climbed all the way to the 4th floor.
People in the 18th district of Paris have yet to believe what they've witnessed. Mamadou Gassama is now a symbol of hope and courage in a country that had been longing for new heroes.
Now, the question, of course, is whether this story will help improve the perception of migrants and perhaps even help them make their dream of a life in France come true. A lot of people here in this country are determined, Tessa, not to let that happen.
All right, thank you for that, Annelise Borges, live in Paris. Now, Portugal's parliament is to vote today on whether to allow euthanasia and doctor-assisted suicide. The vote is expected to be close, as some parties are allowing lawmakers to vote according to conscience. The largely Catholic country has been shifting social positions in recent years, with abortion laws liberalized in 2007 and same-sex marriage introduced 3 years later. If the vote is passed, Portugal would become the 6th country in Europe to approve right-to-die legislation. Now, the prospect of an all-out trade war between Europe and the U.S. could heat up today. European politicians are debating their response to punishing U.S. tariffs due to take effect on Friday. So which products could be targeted? Our correspondent Brian Carter visited an American grocery store in Brussels to find out.
If you live in Europe and enjoy consuming American products like peanut butter or bourbon whiskey, get ready to pay more for them in the future. As the deadline looms for EU exemptions on U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum, Europeans are increasingly becoming nervous at the prospect of a full-scale trade war. So they are putting pressure on Donald Trump by threatening to impose their own tariffs on typical American products, especially those made in Republican states. The end result could be higher prices for consumers in Europe, which would translate into lower consumption and potential job losses for these industries in the U.S. A list of products worth 2.8 billion euros has already been drafted by the EU Commission, which also includes orange juice, corn, and many different industrial appliances. Donald Trump said trade wars are easy to win, but when two major blocs like the US and the EU engage in the battle, no one can really predict the outcome.
So indeed, are we headed for a trade war with the United States? Brian Carter joins me live now from Brussels. Brian, so there is that question, the full-blown trade war between the two blocs. Is it likely, and what is at stake?
Well, Tessa, with Donald Trump, who knows? This is not the first time he's given a deadline. If you remember, he gave the first deadline on the 1st of May, then he changed his mind and extended it to the 1st of June, which is this Friday. So what will he do this time? Will he grant another deadline, or will he stick to his word? Nobody really knows. What we do know is that there's been a lot of discussions going on between the U.S. government and the European Commission here behind me to try to avoid, as you said, this full-scale trade war. Why? Because we're talking about the world's biggest trading partners. Last year alone, 600 billion euros of goods were exchanged between the two. Now, steel and aluminum only account for a fraction of these exchanges, but they're highly symbolic. Donald Trump was elected on the promise to bring back these manufacturing jobs. The member states here in Europe have different things to lose here in this trade war. The worst is Germany, who could lose the most because of its massive car industry. And Berlin has been trying to find a middle ground, a soft approach with Washington, whereas other capitals have been ready to arm wrestle Donald Trump on this.